Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of the Catacombs of Paris, the underground city beneath the City of Light. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. Beneath the streets of Paris, 300 kilometers of tunnels wind through the limestone bedrock of the city. They run under the cafes of Saint-Germain, under the Louvre, under the Palais Royal, and under the oldest churches in France. In 1786, city authorities began transferring the bones of 6 million Parisians into these tunnels to relieve cemeteries so overcrowded that the walls were collapsing and the dead were contaminating the wells. Today, the official ossuary, what tourists call the Catacombs, covers just 2 kilometers of that 300-kilometer network. The bones of 6 million people are stacked from floor to ceiling in orderly rows, arranged in patterns and bordered with decorative skulls. 600,000 people visit each year. The other 298 kilometers are closed to the public. A community of urban explorers, cataphiles, has been illegally accessing those closed tunnels for decades. What they have found in the unmapped sections includes art galleries, cinema rooms, libraries, and walls covered in murals. They have also found sections that appear in no official record. The full extent of the network beneath Paris remains officially unknown. This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the broader phenomenon of lost civilizations, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. The ocean has a long memory. As the last ice age ended around 12,000 years ago, sea levels worldwide rose by more than 120 meters, enough to drown entire coastal civilizations that may have flourished along shorelines that no longer exist. The continental shelves that now lie submerged beneath shallow coastal seas were once habitable land. River deltas, bays, and estuaries that today lie underwater were once the most attractive real estate on Earth, rich in resources, temperate in climate, and accessible by sea. If ancient peoples built their settlements where resources were most abundant, then much of the archaeological record of early civilization may be sitting on the ocean floor, invisible to conventional excavation. This is not speculation. Marine archaeologists have already found submerged ruins at dozens of locations worldwide, off the coasts of India, Japan, Cuba, and the Mediterranean islands. In some cases, these structures are clearly artificial: stone walls, carved steps, and rectilinear platforms that could not have formed naturally. The academic debate is not whether these structures exist, but what they mean. Were they built by unknown pre-flood cultures, or were they coastal settlements of known civilizations gradually abandoned as waters rose? The answer, in many cases, remains open. What oral traditions add to this picture is equally significant. Cultures living on or near the sea throughout the tropics and subtropics carry remarkably consistent flood narratives, stories of a great inundation that drowned an earlier world. These are not borrowed from one another through colonial contact. They predate European exploration. They appear to be independent memories of a shared catastrophe, the end of the last ice age, when the world coastlines changed forever and entire ways of life were drowned. The civilizations that built on those shores, if they existed, vanished beneath the waves. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the Catacombs of Paris, the underground city beneath the City of Light, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The Paris catacombs were formed by limestone quarrying that began in the 13th century to supply building material for the city above. As Paris expanded, so did the quarries, eventually creating a network of tunnels and chambers stretching approximately 300 kilometers beneath central Paris. The geology of the Paris Basin, soft Lutetia limestone easily cut but stable under moderate load, made extensive underground excavation possible for centuries. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen. Instruments malfunction. Researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered, in 1786, City Inspector Charles Axel Guillemot ordered the transfer of remains from the Saints Innocents Cemetery in central Paris, which had been in continuous use for 10 centuries and had become a public health hazard. Bones were transferred by torchlight procession into consecrated tunnel sections. The process continued until 1860, incorporating remains from multiple Parisian cemeteries. The ossuary now holds the remains of approximately 6 million people. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. The official ossuary open to tourists covers approximately 2 kilometers of the 300-kilometer network and receives around 600,000 visitors annually, making it one of Paris's most visited attractions. Admission requires queuing at the entrance on the Place d'Enfoutrachero. The remaining tunnels are owned by the City of Paris and are officially off-limits without a permit, which is almost never granted to individuals. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, cataphiles from Catacombs and the Greek philos, lover, are urban explorers who illegally access the closed sections of the network through hidden entrances in basements, maintenance shafts, and sewer connections. The community has existed since at least the 1970s. Estimates suggest 300 to 500 active cataphiles at any time, with a wider community of occasional visitors. Paris maintains a dedicated police unit, the Brigade Spéléologique, specifically to patrol the tunnels and issue fines. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of, during the Second World War, both the French resistance and German occupying forces used sections of the catacombs. A resistance command post was established in the tunnels beneath the 5th arrondissement and was used to coordinate operations. German forces established a bunker in a separate section with a distinct entrance as a command facility. Both uses are documented historically, and the tunnel locations have been identified by post-war investigators. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. The maps of the Paris catacombs held by the city administration are classified and not available to the public. Cataphiles have produced their own hand-drawn and later digital maps over decades of exploration. A comparison between cataphile maps and official infrastructure records has revealed sections that appear in neither source, tunnels and chambers with no documented origin and no connection to known quarrying or utility infrastructure. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations, and in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the catacombs of Paris, the underground city beneath the city of light. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the catacombs are exactly what the historical record describes: an expanding quarry network beneath a growing medieval city, later repurposed as an ossuary to address a public health crisis. This is the well-documented official account, supported by quarrying records, city administrative documents, and the physical consistency of the tunnels with extraction methods of each period. The mystery of unmapped sections reflects administrative gaps, not ancient secrets. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that sections of the tunnel network predate the medieval quarrying period and may connect to older infrastructure of Roman or pre-Roman origin. Roman Paris, Lutetia, was built on the same limestone geology, and Roman engineers used extensive underground construction. Archaeological surveys in deeper tunnel sections have recovered Roman-era artifacts, suggesting some chambers may have origins older than the 13th century quarry records acknowledge. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the deepest and least mapped sections of the network may extend significantly further than any official or cataphile estimate. Cataphiles report encountering walls and sealed passages, suggesting deliberate blocking rather than natural termination. Some researchers in the cataphile community believe the full network is substantially larger than the 300-kilometer figure cited in public sources, which derives from 19th century surveys not subsequently updated across the full system. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question, is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Catacombs of Paris, the underground city beneath the City of Light, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes limestone quarrying records from the 13th through 19th centuries document the progressive expansion of the tunnel network in a pattern consistent with urban growth above. The administrative records of the Inspection Générale des Carrières, established in 1777 after tunnel collapses caused ground subsidence beneath several Paris streets, provide continuous documentation of tunnel monitoring and mapping from the late 18th century onward. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented WW2 resistance use of the catacombs is confirmed by surviving resistance members' testimonies, contemporary photographs, and the discovery of the command post by historians after liberation. A German bunker was identified in the tunnels beneath the 16th arrondissement and examined by investigators after the war. Both facilities have been physically located within the tunnel network by researchers working from historical records and cataphile exploration. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed an archaeological survey conducted in 2019 in deeper sections of the tunnel network, below the primary quarry level, recovered Roman-era ceramic fragments and what appeared to be structural stonework inconsistent with medieval quarrying technique. The survey was not comprehensive, and its findings have not been fully published, but they suggest that the deepest portions of the Paris underground may contain infrastructure of Roman or earlier origin not accounted for in standard catacomb history. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the catacombs of Paris, the underground city beneath the City of Light. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The Paris catacombs represent a genuine urban frontier, a vast underground space beneath one of the world's most studied cities, whose full extent remains uncertain. The official ossuary is one of Paris's defining tourist experiences. The cataphile community continues to explore and document closed sections, producing detailed maps that have revealed chambers and passages not present in any official record. Occasional deaths from disorientation in unmapped sections occur every few years. A long-term digital mapping project is ongoing, but has not been comprehensively published. For a city that has been continuously occupied, administered, and archaeologically studied for 2 millennia, the persistence of genuine unknowns beneath its streets is an extraordinary fact. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Catacombs of Paris, the underground city beneath the City of Light, from the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Paris catacombs ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.